Hello and welcome. Today we're looking at the infamous Aosenma CG006, also known as the CG033. This brushless GPS folding quadcopter has 5G Wi-Fi. It has a 1080p HD camera that has remote tilting capabilities. It has follow me, circle me, waypoints, return to home, and plenty of other neat features, so let's check it out. Now the drone comes in this white rectangular box showing the quadcopter there in the front, and this is the Aosenma Shadow Drone, also known as the CG006 or CG033, since they're both virtually the same exact model. And here you could see the different variations of those models, such as the S versions of the CG006 and 033. And you could see it comes in several color assortments, such as gray, black, white, red, and blue. And it's also for ages 14 plus. And here you could see a listing of some of its features, such as 1080p HD camera, FPV, 5G streaming, 25-minute flight time, so on and so forth. Here on the sides, not much going on. And here in the back, you could see the quadcopter in its folded compact state. And you could see the cautionary and warning notes, and that the app is in both the Apple and Android app stores. So pretty simple setup here. We'll just open it up, and you could see in the inset the quadcopter there folded and a listing of its features at the bottom there. And here at the top you could see the paperwork, such as the instruction manuals, brochures for the app, and controller and tutorial videos and tips. So a lot of paperwork here, which is pretty good. Here you could see diagrams on using the transmitter and drone, so pretty decent descriptive manuals right there. Then we'll remove this protective foamy cover, and right here in the center you could see all the drone contents and packaging, pretty well laid out. And so let's start out here with the drone itself. We'll just pull out the drone here, and it's already folded and compact. It looks pretty cool. Here's the camera, and it does seem like a cross between a DJI Mavic Air and a Spark, as it has the looks of the Mavic Air but yet the size of the Spark. And it is foldable and folds in a particular fashion. The front legs fold from top to bottom, while the rear legs fold from front to back, as you can see here. And the additional legs also fold out from the rear. And so this is how it looks when it's all folded out. It looks pretty cool, kind of like a Mavic Air. And this is the 006. And now taking a look at the transmitter here. This is a pretty cool compact transmitter. It has these fold out antennas, but they are just for looks. There's no wiring behind them. And it has this fold out portion at the bottom for the mobile device. And it's very spacious, and takes some batteries there in the back, and has some telemetry with a LCD screen. So pretty cool transmitter. And then looking here at the charger, it has a pretty cool hobby-like charger, an A3. And this came with a European plug, and you can just put an adapter for US if you're using it in the US. And so a pretty good hobby grade charger that it comes with, and you can even get a better one to charge the batteries even faster. And here are 4 additional spare propellers with a screwdriver, and these are actually foldable, easy twist on propellers, similar to the ones on the Spark. And in fact, I think they actually work on a Spark. So now let's organize all this and take one last look at the contents of the box. Now, taking a last look at the contents of the box, we have the drone itself with its 11.1 volt 1500 milliamp LiPo battery, 4 spare easy twist on foldable propellers, a screwdriver, a hobby grade A3 charger with its outlet cable, the transmitter, and the instruction manuals and brochures. And some assembly of the joysticks and landing legs may be required. So that's essentially the contents of the box. Now let's take a closer look at the drone. Now, taking a closer look at the drone, this is a pretty cool looking drone that looks like a combination between the Mavic Air and the Spark. It has the size and body of the Spark, while it has the design of the Mavic Air. And this silvery curvature on the top back is the main distinction between the 006 model and the 033 model, as the 033 model doesn't have it. It's just plain at the top. And it has brushless 1406 motors on board. And it has these foldable, easy twist-off propellers, which is pretty cool. You would just simply push them in and turn it, and you can easily just remove the propellers, which is pretty cool. A lot of these you gotta unscrew and install, while these are easy to simply twist on or remove. And in fact, these fit perfectly on a DJI Spark, and they're very similar to those propellers. And so that's pretty cool. And now this is a foldable drone, and you could see the rear legs fold in. And one thing I did want to point out that is of concern is right in the folds, you can see some of the wiring right there. If we zoom in a little bit, you could see the wiring kind of exposed there. And so that build quality there is not too good. But as long as you're very careful with it, you can avoid doing any damage to it. So you got to fold the rear legs in very carefully. Now the front legs don't expose any wiring, but they have to be folded a certain way. You have to fold them from top to bottom, while the rear legs are folded from left to right. And so you just fold them in like that, and you can fold the propellers, and here's how it looks when it's folded and compact. It looks kind of like a brick. So pretty cool. And you can see the camera there, and just a pretty compact design there. And then you can unfold everything out again. It has to be done in a certain order. You would first start out with the rear legs, followed by the front legs, followed by the rear. And then you'd fold out the legs so that it can stand properly. And so pretty cool little design there, except that the wiring on the rear folds kind of are exposed a bit. So that's something to keep an eye on. And so now let's look at the camera here. This is a remote tilting 1080p 5G camera, and right here there's a little compartment to put the SD card. So it does take an SD card, which is very good. Right there you can see the slot, and you just put in a 16 or 32 gig SD card, and you can record onboard footage without even using the app or anything like that, just using the buttons on the controller. So definitely nice to have onboard footage. And the camera is remote tilting, and in fact it has some stabilization with its servo motor. And there's a little hole here that looks like it could be for optical flow, but it's just an empty hole there. And it does have some LEDs around the drone, and you would just simply turn it on right here at the top, and you could see the lights here in the back, the red and the green, and there's some here at the bottom, a couple of red lights. So pretty well lit, not the most brightest, but good enough for orientation and an early evening flight. And here's another look at the up and down servo stabilization of the camera. And it's pretty cool, but it's not particularly noticeable. And so to turn off the drone, you would simply keep the on-off button pressed there for a couple seconds and then remove. And so now let's take a look here at the battery. You just simply unlatch it from the sides and you pull it out, and this is an 11.1 volt 1500 milliamp LiPo battery, and it charges with this A3 hobby grade charger. Just simply plug in the port right there, and then you just plug in the other one to a wall outlet, and it charges pretty quickly, within an hour, a little over an hour. But you could use something like this 20 watt B3 charger, which will charge it much more accurately and rapidly than the included charger. So this is an option to try, and you would charge it in much the same fashion. Now, one thing I wanted to point out is that these can come with two different battery configurations. One where the charge connection is built into the battery, another one where it requires an adapter, like so. And so both function the same way and have the same flight time and charge time, but just one has the built-in connection, while the other just has a separate wire that it comes with where you can charge it. So just wanted to point that out. Not a big difference, but these drones can come with two different battery types, so just something to look out for. And so you would just simply snap it back in, and it does provide the quadcopter with around a 22-minute flight time, not quite the 25 minutes advertised. And so it has a decent flight time. Another thing to point out is that on the side of the drone, right over here, there is a micro USB port, and it doesn't seem to be used for anything. Might have been for firmware updates or charging, but it doesn't appear to be used, so I wouldn't recommend using it. And so that's the only other thing to point out. So overall, a pretty cool looking drone. The build quality is not perfect, but it does the job. So now let's take a closer look at the transmitter. Now, taking a closer look at the transmitter, this is a compact, comfortable transmitter. And here in the back, it takes 4 AAA batteries, as you can see here. 4 AAA batteries held in place with this lid and screw. And now it does have an LCD display and has these foldable antennas right here at the top that are primarily just for looks, since there is no wiring behind them, as you can see right here. And now going over the controls a bit, we have the on-off button here in the center, and that activates the LCD screen. And you can see there's a lot of telemetry on that screen, such as number of satellites, or the direction the drone is facing, the battery level on both the transmitter and the drone. Also, if you're in mode 1, which is GPS mode, or mode 2, which is non-GPS, we have speed, distance, altitude or height, and a lot of telemetry here. So very good with the telemetry. Here is the speed button, and we have a few rates of speed here, low, medium, and high. And if you keep it pressed, it will disable the GPS mode, and it's in mode 2. And if you keep it pressed again, it will enable GPS back to mode 1. And then we have these blue LED indicators where the first one goes out once there is GPS lock. And then we have the auto takeoff and auto land button, and depending on the firmware, you may have to press it up to 3 times to take off or land. Then we have the left throttle stick and the right rudder stick. We have the return to home button, and then there's this follow me button, which doesn't seem to work unless you have the version that has a GPS in the controller. Then we have the headless mode button right here, so you can enable or disable the headless mode. And then we have the circular orbit or surround button right here, where you would press that and then move in a certain direction to provide the radius of the circular orbit. And then also here at the top, we have some more buttons. Over on this side, we have our photo and video buttons. So you would press those to take photo and video. And here you can tilt the camera up or down remotely. So that's pretty cool. And as you can see, there's a micro USB port here at the top, but that doesn't seem to be used for anything. And right down here, we have the cell phone holder where you can place your mobile device. And it's pretty spacious, not quite big enough for a tablet, but can definitely hold a pretty large phone, so that's pretty cool. And this transmitter does provide the quadcopter with around a 500-meter range of control, so overall a good transmitter. And now let's take a closer look at setting this up for its first flight and the app. Now, setting up for a first-time flight is fairly straightforward. Once you have a fully charged battery inserted into the drone, along with its SD card, and fresh batteries inserted into the transmitter, along with a mobile device, you would proceed to activate the drone by pushing its on-off button, located at the top, like so. And you would keep that pressed. And once it's on, you would turn on the transmitter, and it should bind automatically out of the factory. And once it's bound, you can go ahead and proceed to do the calibrations. There's the gyro and GPS compass. We'll start out with the gyro calibrations, and that's done while it's on a flat level surface and not moving. And you would move the left throttle stick to the upper left and the right stick to the lower right, like so. And you should notice the drone blink and beep a couple of times. Now you want to calibrate the GPS compass, and to do that, you move the left stick to the lower left and the right stick to the upper right, and you should see the drone start to rapidly blink. At this point, you want to do figure eights or figure eight motion like this to calibrate the GPS compass, and you would do this until you hear a beep or a couple of beeps. And so you just continue the motion, and the lights should stop blinking and you should hear the beeps like so. So now you've calibrated both the gyros and GPS compass, and so the next step is to connect to the drone's Wi-Fi to use the app. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Now, once in your mobile device's Wi-Fi settings, you want to look for an entry that says Wi-Fi 1080p GPS and a serial number. And so you want to connect to that, and initially there is no default Wi-Fi password, so you can simply go ahead and connect to that. And once connected, you would go ahead and launch this app right here, which is LWFPV, and it has that lens icon, and it's in both the Android and iOS app stores. So you'd go ahead and launch that, and you should enter this main screen right here, at which point you would click the start button right there, and right away you should have a live video feed with the drone right here, live FPV feed, and it's pretty clear and not much latency going on, so pretty good. And the FPV range and distance on this is around 300 meters, so pretty good connection with the FPV transmission. And now proceeding on with the app here, right here at the top of the app, we have a lot of telemetry, such as altitude, distance, vertical and horizontal speed, number of satellites. We have the pitch and yaw, and the battery percentage and signal strength. So a lot of telemetry there. And we have a map view right on the upper right corner. And so going over the controls here, this first option on the left will enable the advanced GPS features such as waypoints, follow me, and circle me, as you can see here, denoted by each icon. And those will be enabled once you have full GPS lock. Right here you can activate the virtual controls to control this through the app. And then we have the return to home icon here. We have the lock icon to enable the motors. Then we have the auto takeoff option. And then here on the right, we have our VR mode that'll essentially split the screen to put in VR goggles. We have our photo and video button. We have our photo gallery, where we also can see taken videos and photos. And then we have our map view here, where we can set our waypoints and submit those waypoints. And then we can go back to the FPV view right here. And right up here we have the options. And in this first options page, You can do your accelerometer or GPS compass calibrations. You can set the joystick mode or set this in accelerometer mode if necessary. Right here we could set the parameters such as the waypoint speed and time at each waypoint. Here we have the map views, whether it's in satellite view or not. And then last but not least, we have our preview settings here, whether we have 480p or a 1080p HD preview, and so on and so forth. So a lot of neat features with this app. So overall, I was very fortunate to receive a model that works relatively well. I have heard of cases where people did receive these with issues with the GPS or with the controller or with the batteries. So there have been some quality control issues reported with this model. So perhaps maybe they've improved on that, or this just happened to be a good model that I received. But I didn't have any major problems with it. Everything worked well. So it seems overall like a pretty good quadcopter. But be advised that there is a possibility of receiving perhaps an older model that may have an issue. So it's all at your own risk. So let's take it out for a flight and see how she performs.